Our first speaker for today is Aneesh Reddy, co-founder and CEO of Capillary Technologies. Capillary Technologies offers an intelligent customer engagement platform to retailers and consumer businesses, managing the entire life cycle of consumer data from acquisition, analytics, insights, and activations. Capillary is the world's leading SaaS provider of end-to-end multi-channel customer engagement, big data, customer intelligence, real-time loyalty, and social CRM solutions to 150 plus enterprise customers. And to share with us the Capillary journey, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Aneesh Reddy.
I'm not talking about the capillary journey as much. I thought I'll do something more interesting, talk about why stay fit. As entrepreneurs, all of us lead quite stressful lives. I've been running this company for about 7 to 8 years now. And over a period of time, I think we stopped focusing on the basics. Whether it's building a company, whether it's about your own personal self. And I thought we'll just change topics. And even Ashish felt that we should do something like that. So the topic is going to be why stay fit. I'll overlay a little bit of Capillary and our journey over the last 7, 8 years as I speak, but not too much gyan. I'm not going to say that staying fit will help you think cleaner or any of that stuff. This was a very serendipitous journey for me. So I'm just going to say what worked for me. I'm definitely not going to give you a lot of gyan on some of that stuff. Right. So, for a very long while, I was a couch potato. So let me do a quick intro, right? So IIT Kharagpur undergrad, 2006, co-founded Capillary, was the CEO right from the start. Couch potato till 2013, never ran more than half a kilometer. There are a few KGPNs here and a few guys I know from the past, so really a big couch potato. Used to like trekking a bit. So in the last 18 months, one thing led to another, and I just moved from being a couch potato to being a very, very fit guy, and I think that's helped a lot in the journey as well. Winter has been on for enterprise-focused companies for a year and a half now. It's just the consumer companies which have been raking in the moolah. So, in the last 18 months, I've done about 10 half marathons. I've done a 100-kilometer trail walk. Back to trekking again. I'd not done something for about 3, 4 years, but then I spend about 2-3 hours in the gym every week, a long run on the weekend. So, try to, in a very busy entrepreneurial life, trying to fix in 6-8 hours in a week to fitness, and it's really worked for me. So, and I'm attempting my first full at the Bombay next month. So, about Capillary, we're about 7 years old as a company, 7.5 now. Started in 2008, just when Lehman tanked, So one of those recession-friendly companies in that sense. Enterprise SaaS, almost dead. No one does enterprise SaaS today. Everyone does consumer, I guess. Very Asia-focused, so we've not gone the conventional way of saying, let's just build companies for the US. We've said, let's solve problems in Asia. We've raised about $80 million till now, about 500 crores, probably the largest that any enterprise SaaS company in this part of the world has raised. About 60 million of that has been in the last 18-20 months. We've obviously seen some ups and some downs. Warburg, Sequoia, Novus being the main investors. We've also acquired a few companies trying to build an ecosystem of products. I'll cover some of that as we go ahead. So where are we now? About 200 enterprise customers, about 20,000 stores on the platform, about 30 plus countries where we have customers, about 150 million shoppers. That's some of the customers that we have. I think I'll cut to, I think running a startup is like running a marathon. Actually, how many of you have run a marathon or a half marathon or have done anything similar? Good to see that, terrific. It's you don't build great companies in 2 years or 3 years. I mean, you do sometimes, but I think that's more a black swan than building something sustainable. So it takes a while, 7, 8, 9 years, and hence it's very important to pace it right. So I've kind of modeled the talk on that sense of saying a good start, then something and then something. But so we had a terrific start as a company. This was 2008, 2009. Startups were not in the vogue at all. Like I had to fight with my parents to say I'll start up. In fact, lied to them that look, resigned from the company, didn't tell them, finally started up and then told them later, stuff like that. 3 founders, took 6 months to actually decide what we wanted to do. There was no brownie points for building a company so that investors put money in it. You had to really solve a problem to build companies back then. And it took us 4, 5 months to even figure out what we wanted to build. And over the next 3 years, angel investing was very rare. We raised about $1.5 million, $500,000 every year over 3 years from about 17 angel investors. Cut to December 2011, about $2 million in ARR. We used to burn 5 lakhs a month at a 1 crore of revenue in, so hardly any burn, just a very, very well-run company. 90% of revenues was India. About 10% of the revenue was international, just 4 folks outside India. We growing very well, 300% year-on-year type growth. And then our first watershed moment happened. We raised a massive Series A. A Series A at that point in time used to be like 2-3 million. We ended up raising about 16, and so that's about 100 years of runway. We were burning about 100K a year, and we ended up raising about $16 million in. And yeah, the other thing got married. And so that was the first part of the journey, the first 3 years. Very good, very smooth, went very well. And then we raised a lot of money. You obviously wanted to go out and grow very fast, blow all the money up types. And then that's the sprint. That's the sprint that really went bad. And the sprint is generally not very good in a marathon. When you're running 42 kilometers, you don't want to sprint even 5, 6 of that. So yeah, so in those 2 years, we went from about 120 folks to 400 folks. We went from being largely an India business to opening a US, UK, Singapore, Middle East, Australia, Hong Kong, South Africa, just all over the place. 35 folks internationally. The founders, we all used to be based in Bangalore earlier. Now each of us was in a different part of the world. Massive loss of focus. We just went from doing a few things very, very well to doing a lot of things not at all well. So just the perfect recipe for disaster, I must say. From burning 5 lakhs a month, we were burning 6.5 crores a month in 2 years. Just a big switch. We had 4 months of cash in the bank. The company as such had turned 5 years now. So more than half of the early rock stars were on their way out. Burn out massively. I have a few of them sitting in the audience here. So who, by the way, also left. So one of my co-founders had also burnt out and wanted to move on. I personally went from 75 kilos in weight to 90 kilos. So it was, everything down south in pretty much those 2 years. And yeah, and it was not like I had planned to get fit. So it was, as I said, it was very serendipitous, and I hope I'm able to at least get a few of you to think of, switching to being fit and focusing on yourselves while you build your companies. The way it started was a good friend actually gifted a weighing machine. He sent a weighing machine home. I didn't know who gifted it. Later I found out that this was the guy who actually gifted it. And I suddenly realized I was 90 kilos. I mean, when you put on weight, right, you don't realize, you gradually add weight, right? It's not like you suddenly bolt on 15 kilos the next day morning. And then I suddenly realized that, look, okay, you've hit 90 now. At this pace, you'll hit a century soon. So you better do something about it. And I was going to turn 30 last year. New Year resolution, I thought, let's get to the same weight as I was 20 when I was in IIT. So I was 68 kilos in IIT. Bought a Fitbit, very basic stuff, said let's do 10,000 steps a day. Moved all my calls, and I do have a fairly spread out business, so moved all my calls to the, Southeast Asia, US focused calls, everything to the morning, 6 to 8, do a long walk to get to that 10,000 steps. Very simple stuff, really. The other thing I did was started using this app called MyFitnessPal. How many of you have heard or used MyFitnessPal? You must check it out in case you want to lose weight, fitness, some basic stuffs. Basics always work, so it's not the big things that are going to make major changes. It's focusing on the basics that helps always. So, yeah, check that app out. Yeah. So went from 90 kilos to 80 kilos in about 4-5 months. So the good thing about investing in yourselves is there is a very quick positive reinforcement loop. And if you folks are folks who try to experiment before you do anything, whether you build a product, whether you sell scales, whether you do any of that, I'd say, just give it a try for a few weeks and you'll see the difference in yourselves. Just a walk of 1 hour in the morning, you can use that to do your calls. So now coming back to the company, right? I'll keep doing company and personal a little bit for this 18-month journey. Like April, May, we probably have like 3-4 months of cash left. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows that the company is not in great shape. String of exits, from all teams. Like if there was no specific team from where folks were leaving. String of exits. Some due to massive burnouts, that just worked 20 hours a week, 20 hours a day probably for like 5 years, So some massive burnouts. Some folks who had joined recently basically realizing, chaos hai, let's go to greener pastures and moving on for that. One of the co-founders finally moves out. A small bridge round we were trying to arrange through investors falls through, nearly out of cash. We were at 15 days of cash left. No option but to pull out of markets, but you have to go do a fundraise. Do you pull out of markets when you're doing a fundraise? Generally, I've raised a lot of money from a lot of investors. So when you're raising a round, you have to show things are very mushy and very nice, So you can't go do a bunch of firings when you want to go raise a round. So needed something to keep me sane. And, this downward spiral of doom, right? You go from one negative thought to another, to another, to another, to out. So started replacing my morning walks with, like very basic runs. So this is a guy who couldn't run half a kilometer in a shot, So, so first started with a 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, did 5 kilometers on weekends. Very, very small baby steps. And I think that's also how good companies, how we should build as well. Take small baby steps, don't blow up $2 million on something you think works. Just try it out with some small money and then scale. That's always better. So, 5 kilometers runs, the good thing about the fitness journey is a lot of positive reinforcement. It keeps building on you, so it's very easy to go on that journey, you just need to start. So, then building the tempo back, right? So here's a company where, 10 out of the top 20 rock stars are either out, or either sulking, or either crying. Like you have 15, 20 days of money left. Investors are bailed out from giving you a bridge. You're in deep shit. So, went out to the market. We got 2 term sheets in about 3-4 weeks. Obviously, soft valuations is the key to do that. Survived to tell the story. We got 2 term sheets from external investors. Internal investors felt, we'll, now that you have external validation, we'll back you. Sequoia Novice put more cash in. We moved on. Took a lot of hard calls. Shut markets. We probably fired about 20-25 people in 2 months. I shut a bunch of markets at that point in time. Shut a bunch of product lines, saying, look, we're not going to do this. Refocused on markets which do well for us. In the last year and a half, that's worked really, really well. One of my other co-founders burnt out, moved on, and the other piece was I was not able to find time to do my long runs or any of that stuff. So accidentally moved all the long runs to the weekends, So just said, let's run on a weekend, right? And that's amazing because generally what you do is you get up at, how many of you get up at 9 or 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning? You know, used to or, you know, so, and I just replaced the first 2 hours of a Sunday with, you know, a run. And so it was not like I was pulling time out of, you know, the weekdays or any of that stuff. And so it didn't impact the company negatively or any of that stuff. Formed a small running group in office. You know, I just felt it was working for me. I felt it will work for other employees and other folks in the company as well. Signed up for the Bangalore full marathon. I haven't finished the full till now. I converted that to a half just a few weeks before the last half. Yeah. What probably worked for me? You know, I think running was probably kind of meditation for me. You know, it just helped me think clearly. So, and you know, it's a 2-hour run, a long weekend run. You know, you do 12 to 20 kilometers on an average. And so, you know, you follow a trail of thought, no distractions, you're not on your phone all the time. You know, some of that stuff really, really worked well for me. And I think what worked best was, you know, when you're running your own company, you're so passionate about it that, you know, a lot of decisions get very hard to take. You know, it's good to take a step back, you know, be dispassionate, for lack of a better word. That kind of view on things sometimes helps. In fact, a lot of times helps. So there's a very good book on this, by the way. It's called Running with the Mind of Meditation. I read it like 2 months ago. Made a lot of sense. The other piece is, you know, when you're in a downward spiral as a company, you know, if you look sad, the entire company you have also will look sad. You know, and you're talking about 200-300 employees here. So if you look positive, if it looks like you're going to sail through, then a lot of people around you will also believe that they'll sail through. You know, so it's just that. So yeah, and some other data, I've been reading up a lot on this stuff, you know, whether fitness actually helps you, stuff like that. And there's this very nice research a PhD student in one of the universities in Germany has done. It's a 46-page paper. You should actually read it. And I believe in data a lot, so, you know. And it basically says that for between 2001 to 2011, CEOs of S&P companies who had finished a marathon delivered 8% better results than, you know, the other lot. And there's a lot of other good stuff there, you know. I think there is some research which correlates to some of this as well. And the other piece, right? So I think as founders, as CEOs, we also build cultures in our own companies, you know, and you know, the way we solved our burnout problem. And, you know, as you become companies which are 5, 7, 8 years are substantial, you know, you will see that there is a certain amount of burnout element that happens. And it's very important to, you know, figure how you can get rid of that, right? So today actually, we have about 20 half marathoners in the company. 5% of the company does a half marathon every 6 months, you know, so it's just a terrific culture that, in fact, tomorrow morning we have a run at 6:30 at Kabban. There's a bunch of folks from office also joining. Feel free to join in if you want to. So the other thing is like I obviously run a fairly international business. So a great way to see a city is to do a good morning run. You know, 5-6 kilometers around the city. You know, amazing. So what next, right? We raised $15 million Series B, have some money in the bank. Survived in a sense. But personally, what next? So 2 founders gone. The whole world is shouting consumer, consumer, consumer. All your friends have pivoted their companies to do something consumer. You know, prepare the company for an exit, build more. You know, how do you break through, right? How many 200-300 crore software product companies have been built out of India? Like none, hardly any. Tally is as old as I am and is probably between 250 to 300 crores. In revenues now. So, you know, is it even possible to do something like this? You know, something that all my investors have always asked me that, you know, is this a sizable play? Can you build stuff like that out of India? And I didn't know, frankly. You know, and these were questions that kept coming back. That okay, you've sailed through this bad phase, but what next? You know, will this company also be another also ran in that sense? And something very interesting happened. So my wife is a big yoga enthusiast. You know, she's a big yoga freak. And I never would give any importance to any of that, but she convinced me to do a 2-week holiday in Rishikesh. You know, so, and it's my longest holiday in 9 years since I got out of college. And even for my wedding, I had taken like a week off, you know. So, a good book for company, you know, good to great. If you haven't read that book, very early in your startup journey, you won't appreciate it. 2-3 years down, you know, when you're building something good, pick that book up. It's a very good book. Yeah, beginner's course of yoga. Liked yoga a lot. And, you know, I've tried to meditate a lot of times in life, never happened. I think these guys have some very nice guided meditation type stuff, which works like a piece. Yeah, I think the most important part, you know, as I don't know about the rest, but at least personally, I think there's a lot of self-doubt and a lot of self-guilt and this and that as entrepreneurs, right? You constantly keep beating yourselves down on a bunch of things. And I think where this trip was very good for me was helping me make peace with myself, you know, and hence we decided that let's build more, you know, and I also agreed with the investors that it's hard to build a $100 million SaaS revenue business out of India, just where the country is today or just where Asia is today. And hence we said, let's turn the strategy around. Let's build a multi-product company. So if you look at an SAP, an Oracle, a Salesforce, all of these are combinations of 20 products, 10 products, 15 products, right? Which contribute and then make them like massive companies. So yeah, and if we wanted to get to 100 million in 5 years, we felt that's the right way to do it. So then went, looked around which are the companies that we could buy, which, you know, our customers would buy, so it'd be easier to execute, and where the sales team could sell pretty easily, that kind of stuff. Signed a term sheet to buy a company called Marjack. They were about a third in revenues as us. It's amazing the number of enterprise companies who've raised very little funding have built such nice place in the country, and it was a big acquisition. It's a third of the revenue and the number of employees of a company like us. We've never done an acquisition. And then decided to raise another round of 40 million to kind of get to the next stage. Fund the acquisition, next 24 months of growth. Founders had left, told employees had left, liquidation for them, you know, reasons to raise the round. And it was a very tough headstand. You know, you've been hearing stories of consumer companies raising like 40, 50 million like no one's business, $1 billion like no one's business. But no PE, no private equity player has ever invested in you know, an Asia-focused SaaS play. None of them understand SaaS. None of them understand B2B. You know, everyone believes in the 125 crore population that India has and that they will someday get onto the net. But you know, we're not riding a consumer wave, right? We are a normal, good business. So very few understand SaaS. It was just a lot of pitches which went nowhere. You know, a good, and I believe that, you know, fundraisers have to be done in 3-4 months. You can't like do it like a lifestyle thing for 1 year. It doesn't work. So we didn't have any GMV to speak of. We had real good margins. I run the business at a 60-65% gross margin. Discounts don't work for us. You know, it's enterprise, so the customer has to see value before they buy. Even if I scream at the top saying 50% discount, no one's going to come buy. We pitched to 35 investors in 10 weeks. That's like a pitch a day. Didn't get a banker, you know, and was very hard. You know, it was very, very hard. And you at the same time keep hearing this. You know, this guy raised a 40 million, that guy raised a 50 million. You know, someone just made a PPT and raised 15 million, stuff like that. You know, so it was just, you needed your daily dose of sanity in a sense that, you know. And that's when I really said, I'll start allotting an hour a day for hitting the gym, you know, or 3-4 hours a day to actually do some yoga or hit the gym. And we finally got to 2 term sheets by middle of, you know, end of April, early May. Decided to go with Warburg Pincus, terrific investor. I'm sure you wouldn't have heard much about Warburg in that sense, but they're an early investor in Airtel, they're an early investor in HDFC Bank, in Kotak. They've kind of built a lot of these very large companies very, very early. so terrific investor in that sense. Yeah, it was kind of like doing a headstand. I mean, if you guys are into yoga, doing a headstand takes a lot of effort. Some quick tips. I believe I actually take a week out every year now, last year and this year, to just phone off, everything off, go think where you're heading in life, where you're heading as a company. Has helped me a lot. I hope it helps others who try it out. There are a bunch of very good yoga retreats around Bangalore, so you don't need to travel too far. A long weekend, 3-4 days, very, very nice. It just gets you back to being positive, being focused on what's happening. Finally, I think as entrepreneurs, we don't invest in our teams and ourselves as much. We constantly keep trying stuff out on the business side. I think if you can pull out 6 to 8 hours a week, or even 4 to 5 hours a week, and invest in yourselves, you'll definitely see a lot of benefits from doing something like that. And I understand our lifestyles don't enable us to do that as founders. We are on call 24/7 and all that stuff. But a long run or a cycling thing on a weekend, it's a terrific start to a weekend. If you started off without a hangover, with a good run that morning, it's a great way to start a weekend. You should just try it out sometime. 3 to 4 days a week, as many days as you can actually. Hit the gym, work out, go for a run, start your day well. The first 2-3 hours of a day are, I think, really decide how your day is going to be. So, yeah. And yeah, if you're running sizable companies, 100 employees, 150 employees type stuff, or even smaller ones, start a running group. Like we have free yoga in office and free Zumba in office. As you hit scale, the biggest thing you'll manage is burnout. Every time a good employee comes to you and says, I want to leave, is 5 other employees thinking, should I also leave? And the largest reason in startups why people leave is burnout. It's not good opportunities outside, or it's none of that. So, yep. Yeah, some other small experiments I've been trying out for the last 2-3 months now is I've knocked off email, social media, and browsers from my phone. How many of you keep checking your mail every 5 minutes? Cool. I mean, I think it's a very disciplined audience. I was expecting everyone to raise their hands on this. Exactly, right? So, very distracted conversations, you don't focus on anything. And we all think if I don't reply to the next email that comes in the next 1 minute, the world is going to stop around you. It won't. It will continue to run. Your company will also survive. Don't worry about it. So, yeah, that's something that's worked well. Snacking of news, constantly checking Facebook, next big what, busy circle, so that stuff, right? So I've restricted that to about 30 minutes in the evening, just to make, just to help focus. I think focus is a great thing. When you're in tough times, focusing on a few good things helps a lot. The first 90 minutes of the day, try and keep the laptop out. I mean, I don't have anything on my phone to anyway do much with it without the browser, social media, or mail. So I even keep my laptop out for the first 60-90 days. That's helped a fair bit. Finally, I'll close with Murakami. Does any of you read Murakami? Right. So, yep. He has a very nice book called "What I Talk About Running." What I talk about when I talk about running. Very nice book. It's one of these quotes there, which I think I'll end with. In long distance running, the only opponent you have to beat is yourselves. So it's about the mind. When you're doing a 42-kilometer run, even a 20-25-kilometer run, it's about the mind. It's not about your body, right? So, and I think startups are very similar. It's about the mind. You can be in the most shitty position, 15 days of money left in the bank, 400 employees whose salaries depend on end of that month. You're going to have a massive ruckus, you have vendors you have to pay, and yeah, it's just about believing that it'll be fine, focus, do the things the 5 things you think impact the business, do them right, don't spread yourselves thin, Yep, so I think entrepreneurship is always about challenging yourself, so And if I've been able to change some of you to say, move to some fitness, I'm running tomorrow morning at 6:30 at Kaban. We have a small group from office as well running. Please feel free to join us. Thank you guys. Any questions? No, actually, I plan to run Capillary and build it to 100, 150 million. So I haven't thought about my next startup as yet. I think we have at least another 5-7 years left in Capillary. I think we're building at least a 100, 150 million dollar profitable SaaS company. So yeah. So, any questions, guys? Cool. What are the reasons behind acquiring?
Or investing in them?
Right. So largely 2-3 things. So one was we just felt that as a single product company, we had a cap of about 25-30 million as where we could get to in 3-4 years, across the markets that we were in. And then when we did some of this thing of saying how did an SAP scale, how did Oracle scale, how did a Salesforce scale globally, we realized that all of them are multi-product companies, right? Oracle started with a database, today sells everything under the sun. When you look at an SAP, it's very similar. When you look at a Salesforce, it's very similar. So, and I think for services companies, it's much easier to build other services, employ a few people, build a service business, right? So, product companies, to get to product market fit, first to referenceable customers is 2.5 years of work, right? I mean, you don't get to product market fit in like 2 months, 3 months, not happening, right? So, and we just felt that, if we could get companies which fit our customer base well, like we work with retail, a lot of our retailers want to go online, so MartJack just made like absolute sense, like Rua is a machine learning startup. So again, we sit on tons of data, everyone's saying, big data, how do I use it well? So some of that stuff. So it was just very simple connecting the dots that, and we'll do a lot more of that going forward as well. I believe we need to get to at least 4 $25 million products to build a $100 million SaaS play out of the country. We might build 2 internally, we'll probably acquire 2. So, yeah. Cool. Any other questions, guys? Yeah. Running a 2.2 when I was in KGP. Yeah. No, yeah. I was a couch potato till, my mother doesn't believe that I still run. So I'm going to take her to a half marathon someday and say, look, I finished. So it's, no, I never actually ran a 2.2 in KGP.
Abhay also talks a lot about culture, how he started MartJack and how he raised the funding from 70 plus angels. And now you also talk about trust, right? So can you talk a bit more about the culture, like how you are integrating MartJack with Capillary?
Right. So again, I think culture-wise, right? So MartJack is Hyderabad-based, we're Bangalore-based, and both companies don't have a 100% culture fit. And even if you, and hence we'll continue to run MartJack out of Hyderabad. We'll continue to run Capillary out of Bangalore. What we're doing is the sales and the account management teams, which is the front to the customer, those will be same. So we just integrating that and a little bit of finance, a little bit of HR. So the core of the company, which is technology and delivery, we'll continue to keep them different. The other piece there is even if you look at an Oracle, SAP, or Salesforce, folks like that, right? They've acquired other product companies which continue to run off their specific locations. So a Buddy Media still runs out of New York for a Salesforce, which is based in San Francisco, or an Exact Target still runs out of Indiana. So I think, yeah. So that's. I hope I gave you an answer to that.
Thank you.
But the idea is, over a period of time, you are going to have the same HR policies. You're going to do the same stuff in MartJack as well. I don't think there's a big bang answer.
No, it's true. I heard Abhay talking a lot about trust, how he's developing trust with his employees. And the same thing, I think, so you also talk about, trust and the culture. So I think so there's a quite of synergies between 2 of the companies.
Perfect. Cool. Any, yeah. Sorry.
you changed the perspective with which you're looking at life, you got fit, and that idea really inspired the rest of the company. Did you also make some changes to the product strategy or your offerings?
Yes, we cut out a lot of stuff. I think as founders, we generally have this feeling of opportunities in the air, and we try to do a lot of stuff. And when you have 100 years of extra money that someone has given you, which you don't need, you also figure new ways to burn it. So you open a lot of countries, you spread the talent you have in the company very thin. So we did a lot of that. In fact, as I mentioned, we cut out a lot of markets, we cut a few product lines out. We said let's do what we do well and do that more. So
you didn't try to change the product or the offering at all?
We were trying to do a lot more in the US. I cut that out, which by itself cut a bunch of stuff out. We did change from saying we'll build for the US or build for developing markets. We said we'll build for developed markets. We'll build for developing markets is what we said. So we went multilingual instead of trying to stay focused on so we did do some of those pieces. And I think that worked for us. So yeah.
Just one question. First of all, a great talk, and I came here this morning to listen to startup ideas and all that, but I'm more inspired about your fitness bit, and I'm going back home really thinking about starting my marathon. So thank you for that. One question I had is, you spoke about two of the co-founders leaving you.
Right.
So first of all, how did you handle that personally to convince yourself and motivate yourself?
Right.
And how did you take that up with the investors? Because I'm sure they would have questioned that, right? When a co-founder is leaving you, how difficult and how did you do that?
Right. See, I think the point at which they left, I was very lucky. And I'll tell you why. Because I was just focused on survival. When you're on survival mode, when you're having 15 days of money in the bank, you're not going to think about what someone else is thinking. You're going to say, I need to get the money in the bank. Right? So I was more focused on that. So I was very lucky there, actually. If in today's terms, when everything is hunky-dory and one of my co-founders comes and even a reasonably senior employee walks to me and says, look, I'm thinking of moving on, I probably ponder more, feel bad, because I have all the extra time in the world to do it. At that time, I didn't. Right? So it actually hit me that these two folks were leaving after the storm was over, after we had another 90 crores in the bank, after more like a November last year, rather than in March or April when they were leaving. And on the investor side, I'm actually lucky to have at least Shailesh from Sequoia on the board. He's really helped us through our bad times, and there was a lot of support that came from him and from Mohan as well at Novels. But so our investors we were lucky. We were lucky in terms of and I think the investors wanted to see that we would pull through, that the third founder will not walk out. It won't be that all the money goes down the drain. Some of that stuff also I think inspired them. Also, the other good thing that both my other co-founders did was they moved 25% of their equity to the ESOP pool when they left. We all knew that the journey is not over, so we felt obligated to move some of our equity to the ESOP pool. And probably if I leave ever, I might do something like that as well. So some of that stuff I think gave confidence to the investors, gave confidence to the employees. We've raised another massive round after it, 45 million. The company is doing really well now. So I don't know if I answered your question, but any other questions, guys? Yeah.
So through all the ups and downs that you went through, how did you maintain your sense of self-trust and self-confidence to continue going through?
Right. I think, in fact, if you really ask me, the reason I think I continue to be on this fitness thing is I think it helps a lot on that side. It really helps a lot on that side because I mean, at least in my case, I'm a very self-doubt. I mean, most entrepreneurs, I think, are that way, at least. So focusing on something which helps you be a little more positive. You know, run a day, 2 kilometers in the morning, 15 minutes of a good 2.5 kilometer run, helps you be more positive there. You know, so at least the reason I've continued to, the positive reinforcement has been thanks to some of that. And another piece is, sometimes you need to take hard calls, go take them. You know, there's no point in, if your startups fail, it's because you didn't take a few hard calls at the right time, period. I mean, we can blame investors, we can blame the ecosystem, we can blame everyone around us, you know, but if you took a few hard calls at the right time, you know, you would go through. So, thanks. Yeah, I have the best wife in the world, you know, and I'm serious about it. For someone like me, I think I've just been very lucky with a great wife, you know. Yeah, I think other than that, it didn't help much. Thanks.
Aneesh, thank you very much for that wonderfully crafted narrative of intertwining your personal journey and your startup journey. It's what not a lot of people are talking about, and it's what some of us needed to hear. So thank you very much.